everybody. Welcome to my story time. Thank you for coming. Today I have a very special book. It is a book about a very cool fairy. I don't know if you've seen it before. This book is called Bloom. And it's written by Doreen Cronin and David Small. Well, it's illustrated by David Small, I think. Let me check. Let me double check. So, oh, it doesn't say. Yeah. So do you see the fairy up here? Let's start. Bloom. Look at this pretty picture. She lives there where there's a castle and there's lots of plants. Once upon a time, in a beautiful glass kingdom, there lived an unusual fairy named Bloom. Her boots were caked with mud. There was dirt between her teeth. Beetles rested in her wings. Bloom's magic could spin sand into glass, turn weeds into blossoms, and grow a trickle of rainwater into a racing river. Bloom was a helpful creature, but her footsteps were heavy, and she left a trail of tiny cracks and mud everywhere she went. Do you see her footprints? As the years passed and the kingdom became larger and shinier, the people cared less about Bloom's magic and noticed only the mess she left behind. They complained about her heavy feet and her muddy fingerprints. Oh, look at them. Do you see them over there? All mad, saying, "Go away!" Poor Bloom has to carry all her stuff. Bloom had finally had enough. She left without saying goodbye and went to live in the heart of the forests. Both the kingdom and Bloom were extraordinarily happy with the choice she had made. Years and years went by, and the glass kingdom had fallen into a state of despair. Oh no, I think it's breaking over here. It was held together by duct tape, glue, and peasants. The king was reminded of the powerful creature who once lived in the kingdom. His royal court offered to find her, but the king declined their help. Surely, a creature with such power will answer only to a king. Very well, your highness, but tread lightly. Fairies are delicate and easily frightened, advised the royal court. So there goes the king to find her. The king entered the forest on his swiftest steed, determined to find the creature and save his kingdom. Bloom felt the horse's hoofbeats and came to greet the king. "I am looking for a magical creature gone so many years ago," he announced. "I'm here," she answered. The king glanced at Bloom with her dirty and clunky shoes. "Show me magic that will save my kingdom," ordered the king. Bloom placed a bucket of mud at the king's feet. "How dare you!" bellowed the king. He dismissed Bloom as a trickster and rode off. "Suit yourself," said Bloom, perfectly happy to go back to her own business. Was that her magic? Maybe she could do something special with that mud. When the king returned empty-handed, many days later, the queen decided that she was much better suited to find a magical fairy. "Maybe your deep voice frightened her off," said the queen reassuringly. "I must go in your place." There it goes. Do you see the long dress of the queen? Pretty funny, huh? Let's see. Do you think the queen is going to get her to come back? The next day, she entered the forest accompanied by a single guard. Bloom heard their footsteps and, once again, curious, stepped out to greet the queen. I am looking for a magical creature gone so many years ago, announced the queen. I am here, answered Bloom. Show me the magic that will save my kingdom, ordered the queen. Bloom placed a bucket of mud at the queen's feet. How dare you, bellowed the queen. She dismissed Bloom as a trickster and rode off. Have it your way, said Bloom. She picked up her bucket and skipped back to where she came from. What of the magical creature? Asked the king upon the queen's return. Broken glass crunched under her feet as she crossed the room. Rain fell from the cracks in the ceiling. Clearly, it is too frightening to speak directly with royalty, answered the queen. We must send someone ordinary. Do you know what ordinary means? Let's see if we can guess it. Genevieve was exactly that, the smallest and quietest in the kingdom. Her only job in the palace was to collect, wash, and dry the queen's exquisite crystal sugar spoon. It was a single object in the kingdom that had not yet cracked. The queen summoned Genevieve to her chambers and explained the dire situation. You are our last hope, she said kindly. I will not fail you, my queen, Genevieve said within her tiny voice. And off she went. Look, everybody's holding the palace together. Do you see? They're here hugging this part because it's cracking. Genevieve traveled through the dark woods without carriage or a guard. Bloom heard the sound of her feet pressing into the ground and stepped out to greet the girl. I am looking for a magical creature gone so many years ago, said Genevieve. I am here, said Bloom. Have you any magic to save the kingdom? Bloom placed a bucket of mud at the girl's feet. Perhaps if I explain, said Genevieve. You see, our kingdom is built of glass, and it is falling to pieces. Bloom placed a shovel at Genevieve's feet. I'm happy to help you with your chores, of course, but perhaps you can show me the magic first, Genevieve said. Bloom studied the tiny girl for a moment. She was so delicate. She had barely left a footprint behind her. What's your work in the kingdom? Asked Bloom. I collect, wash, and dry the queen's crystal sugar spoon, Genevieve told her. Is that all you can do? Asked Bloom, hoping she did not sound too harsh. Actually, I'm not really sure, said Genevieve. It's all I'm allowed to do. Lest my hands get too rough or too dirty to properly care for the spoon. So she couldn't do anything else but touch that spoon to wash it and dry it. That was the only thing she was allowed to do ever. Why would the king and queen send a delicate child with such a delicate job deep into the dark forest to do something they could not? Asked Bloom. Because I'm ordinary, answered Genevieve. A dark shadow passed over Bloom's face. She picked up her bucket. She picked up her shovel. She took the girl by the hand. I will show you the magic that can save your kingdom, said Bloom. Bloom led the girl into a clearing with a small house, a working fire, and an enormous pit of mud. Do you see the mud? That's a giant mud pit. She plunged both hands into the pit, hurled the brown glob onto the ground, and quickly made a mud pie. Have you ever made mud pies? I loved making mud pies when I was little. You try it, said Bloom. I mustn't, cried Genevieve. I'll never be able to touch the Queen's sugar spoon again. Do you wish to save the kingdom? Asked Bloom quietly. Genevieve did not want to fail the Queen. She closed her eyes, stuck her hands in the bucket, and pulled out a scoop of wet, gloopy earth. Nervously, she shook her hands and the mud fell to the ground, splattering everywhere. Not bad, said Bloom with a smile. Genevieve laughed and brushed the splatters off her face. And try again, Bloom encouraged. This time, Genevieve enjoyed the cool, shifting feel of the mud. So different from the delicate spoon, she flung it to the ground exactly as Bloom had. Nicely done, Bloom said. Smiling, Genevieve shaped the mud into a small, round pie. Perfect, announced Bloom. Now let's make some magic. Are you ready for the magic? What do you think? What's the magic you can do with mud? Do you know? Do you know if you can do anything with mud? Genevieve watched Bloom as she shaped one of the mud pies into a perfect brick. She pulled back her hair with her muddy fingers, rolled up her sleeves, and tried to do the same. She made a loop-sided, lumpy oval brick. You'll get it, said Bloom. Look at all those bricks that she's making with mud. What can you do with bricks? Do you know? Let's see. After 16 more tries, Genevieve had made a perfect brick. What else can I do? Asked the girl. You'll see, said Bloom. Shovel after shovel, bucket after bucket, she showed Genevieve how to add straw into the mud. That made the bricks even stronger. When her pile of bricks towered over her head, Genevieve was not tired at all, but eager to do more. Look at all those bricks over here. And look at all those shovels and buckets flying around. Bloom showed her how to make mortar by mixing mud with sand. What is that for? Genevieve asked. You'll see, Bloom told her. And brick by brick, row by row, wall by wall, what do you think they made? The fairy and the girl built a sturdy house in the middle of the forest. I can't believe what I've done, shouted Genevieve. Look at that beautiful house. They built it together. You must go back to the kingdom and share your magic, said Bloom. But how can I bring back a house? Asked the girl. You can't. You can only tell the king and the queen what you can do, said Bloom. They will never believe that an ordinary girl could do such an extraordinary thing, Genevieve worried. What will I tell them? Tell them there is no such thing as an ordinary girl, said Bloom. Genevieve returned to the kingdom. Her feet were cracked in mud. There was dirt between her teeth. Beetles were resting in her hair. She knocked on the palace door and shattered it to pieces. Oh no. I am here, she shouted. She wasn't quiet anymore. Then an ordinary girl rebuilt a kingdom. Do you see? She built the whole castle again with the bricks. The end. Oh, look, here's Bloom over here on the throne, all muddy. I hope you enjoyed this story. And I hope you know that you are extraordinary too. What magic can you do? I will see you again next time for another story time. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.